I guess just you telling me I guess a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay, great. Um, my name's Allan Schneck. I'm the director of the Department of Public Services for Rochester Hills. And under our umbrella of public services is water and sewer, roads and pathways, fleet, and engineering. And kind of often say that we're the public stewards of the city's infrastructure.
Yeah, so I kind of want to for at least for my goals for college, I'm like super interested in like engineering, specifically like mechanical engineering. So I just and I don't really know that much about like I mean I've heard of like what you guys do and like I know some people, but I haven't really heard too much about it. So I just thought this would be really interesting. And
Yeah, so and you're absolutely right. I think as maybe an industry um, sometimes needs to do a better job of communicating what it is that we do. Um, so we would be classified as civil engineers. So I know you had mentioned mechanical, and that's obviously an industry as well as electrical engineers. Um, but civil is very broad. It's kind of broken down into transportation, uh, water, chemistry, hydraulics, which is like water and water pressure, geotechnical, which is more materials based, and then structures, buildings, skyscrapers, and the components of how those buildings are built and able to withstand what they call certain loads, like dead loads is just the actual weight of the building, so it has to be able to hold itself up, but also live loads, which are people in the building. So, and then here in Michigan, and kind of in our geographic location, we have to be cognizant of snow loads. So, but if you were to go to a different part of the country, like if you were to go to Florida, you'd have to worry about hurricanes and being able to build a structure to withstand a hurricane. Or if you went to California, obviously you have to have concerns about earthquakes. So, but civil engineering is, I feel, really cool industry because it's universal. You can go anywhere in the world. People need clean and safe water to drink. They need sanitary sewer systems and water treatment plants. They need roads and bridges and dams. Um, so it's really an industry. You can go anywhere in the world, and you'll definitely be in need.
cool. And because of that, just kind of going off of what you're saying, this is like so universal. There's probably always going to be like a job market out there, right? For people with civil engineers or
Absolutely. Um, and I think what's kind of eye-opening a little bit too, it's not only being a civil engineer and designing something, you also partner with industries that actually have to build it, like the concrete industry or the asphalt industry or the steel industry. Um, so if you are a civil engineer, you might not just be doing the design, you may be working as a supplier to the industry. Um, a kind of a cool little story is like in the city, we have 8,000 signs that we have to maintain. Um, and that's an industry just by itself of having a manufacturer like 3M develop the sheeting material that goes on the sign and the certain criteria of retroreflectivity and how long it has to last and how it's visible, and the fabrication of the signs of, how high the font or how big the font should be and what font type. I mean, you kind of like, you'd think, well, a sign is a sign, right? But there's a lot of research and development in just the signing industry.
Cool. So yeah, I remember like about the signing industry. Like I remember as an elementary school kid, like going to I think one of the like kind of like their civil like like town buildings, like industrial, where they keep all their like snow machines, and then they had like they're making signs in there, and I remember their process was like really, really, really careful. Like you had to make sure like the sticker that you put or like whatever you put on that sheet of metal was like super like exact and stuff. Otherwise you had to like make a new one or something. I just thought that was a cool like process.
Yeah,
So
I think that's a program that's really beneficial and unique to the city of Rochester Hills. And you're absolutely right. We do those fourth grade tours, and you kind of get a behind the scenes look of the Department of Public Services. And you're absolutely right. Just having to be diligent in your work, and again, being prepared, right? Our work is seasonal. Summertime we're doing construction projects. Wintertime we're clearing and treating the streets, um, and just need to be prepared for all things.
cool. So what are the educational requirements for a job that you have?
So it's a bachelor's in civil engineering, and there's a license. Not that it's required, but it sure opens up a lot of other opportunities. And it's called a PE license, and PE stands for professional engineer. So you do have to take 2 exams um, in order to obtain a professional engineer's license. So, um, and I am a professional engineer in the state of Michigan. Um, you'll find other engineers that are licensed in multiple states, so they can do work as a professional engineer, let's say in Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana. So um, I just so happen I did further my education. I do have a master's in civil engineering. Not that it's required, but um, an opportunity was presented, and I pursued it.
So what does a normal day look like in your job? Like what do you do from your like start of your day to like end of your day? Just like a synopsis kind of.
Well, in my capacity, sometimes you don't know, right? I mean, a lot of things can come up. Uh, but again, I'm the director of the department, so there could be things dealing with personnel, making sure that the staff is here, making sure that um, they're staying on task with the jobs and duties that they have to perform. Um, I may get a call from the mayor that says, "Hey, I need you to look into something. A customer has called and need your assistance." Um, Budgeting, again, we're a big department. Uh, the department's budget is about $65 million. So there's a lot of responsibility there. And again, so I know I'm not giving you like a clear, this is, hey, I come in and I make, 10 widgets and I'm done.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
It's just very dynamic, and it's cool. And what I like about the job is we actually see the services that we provide, right? I mean, if we reconstruct a road or rehabilitate a water main, we see it, and you know, it's a quality of life type of job.
Yeah, that's cool. Uh, yeah, so it's like kind of for going back to like another engineering aspect. So like what you're doing is kind of like and also like what you said about being prepared, like making sure that basically like what you're doing is like right and stuff, and like thinking through like the process and like working around like different changes and stuff, and then so it's like yeah, in my opinion, that seems like kind of all about like what engineers do. So it's like a perfect example because I know some jobs are just like the regular 9 to 5 thing, like going to work, and but you're what you're doing seems like really interesting because you're able to like work around like different problems and stuff, like kind of like daily, right? So
Yeah, and you're exactly right, Robert. You know, part of a job of an engineer in any discipline is problem solving. And you know, the process um, for engineers, if you will, is systematic, methodic. Hey, I got a issue. I kind of know what my end game is. I know what I want to do, but how do I get there? And sometimes we have a lot of time to work on plans and specifications, but there are things that happen that are unscheduled. Uh, we could get a water main break, and we got to respond immediately. Um, and to be prepared, you're absolutely right. Not only is it problem solving, but having um, protocols or policies or guidelines in place to make sure that if something happens, um, that we're able to respond. But also part of our responsibility is to provide that preventative maintenance, um, knowing the condition of our water system, our sewer system, our roads. It's a little easier when you can see the asset, right? I mean, we can drive on the road and hey, there's a pothole. Okay, we know that it's there. It's a little more challenging, if you will, when you have 1,000 miles of pipe underneath the ground, and you're assessing its condition and planning and budgeting accordingly to say, hey, we need to replace this water main because it's 50 years old and it's made out of cast iron. Or um, during for our sewer systems, the way that we inspect those is we actually send a little robot down into um, the sewer system, and they televise the condition of the sewers so we can see if they're cracked or if they're failed, or if they're just aged, and they're in a condition that needs to be rehabilitated. So you're absolutely right as far as problem solving.
yeah, that's pretty cool. So do you expect just going off of like what you said about robots, because yeah, I know the robots are like coming like a bigger force in like kind of the engineering world. We're using them more for stuff. So do you think that you'll be using more robots and stuff in the future besides just like for sewers and stuff?
Yeah, I think there's in our industry, technology is ever evolving. It um, I've seen some beta tests on, not that it really falls under our purview, although we do a little bit of mowing, like grass mowing, of actually having like an autonomous mower. You set up a boundary and it knows, to cut right inside that boundary. Um, but yeah, um, robots and technologies and artificial intelligence um, are all a part of our evolving industry. And you've probably heard about even autonomous vehicles, right? But that's a partnership between the automotive um, industry, in the civil uh, engineering industry, because obviously they need a road that they have to drive on. There's certain pavement markings or signing that's needed for that vehicle to drive autonomously.
Yeah, I actually never like really thought about it that way, because I was thinking like they could just fix the problem like within the cars themselves and stuff. But like, yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I think having signs and like working with civil engineers is also like a really like good thing that they're probably gonna do, because yeah, like having special lights, special signs and stuff, and then maybe like road markings. Yeah, that requires, yeah, as you said, with like civil engineers, because I think like most of the I think the reason that we need autonomous vehicles is just to like kind of like eliminate like the human error and stuff in traffic, but that doesn't mean that you can like fix all the problems within the cars themselves. You have to like kind of like work around like the environment that they're in, right? Because like what if it's snowy and the camera it, like clogs up the cameras? What do you do? And then like what if it's summer? What if it's light? Like how are you gonna like make signs to detect that and stuff, right? So I just thought that was cool. So um so why did you want to choose the career that you're in right now?
Well, actually, my dad was in the automotive industry, and I still have a great love for vehicles and cars, and but I started out as a drafts person, actually before AutoCAD and computer aided design, and um, ended up working at the road commission for Oakland County, and the woman that was my boss kind of inspired me that, hey, you're a pretty smart kid, and if you have any desires to further your career in this industry, you're going to have to go to school and get a civil engineering degree. And I ended up going to night school, and ended up getting my civil engineering degree. And from there, it just kind of evolved. I mean, from actually doing design work, doing computer aided design work, uh, to being a manager, to being a city engineer, then to being a director of the Department of Public Works, um, or Public Services. But that's how it evolved. I mean, it was somewhat organic and natural, if you will. It wasn't, um, uh, um, and I had good mentors along the way. A lot of good coaching of how to um, kind of get where I wanted to get, and that was very helpful. I mean, it surely wasn't just, hey, I was a good student, I was at the right place at the right time. It really was uh, a partnership with people that I worked with, and um, inspired me to pursue greater things.
That's really cool. Yeah, I mean, most people like just end up going like end up going just straight out of high school to college, or at least like nowadays they do. So it's cool. Like, I mean, and then like sometimes, like if they don't end up going to college, they feel like, oh yeah, I don't feel like I'm gonna like make it there and stuff. Because I know like a bunch of people that like I work with that are like kind of like that, and that's okay. I mean, if they're choosing something they want to do, that's fine. But I mean, like finding the drive to like go back to school and stuff, I just think that's really important and stuff. And you seem like you made a success, so yeah, that's pretty cool.
And you're right, Robert. I mean, I think even the big, I'll say big technology companies like a Microsoft or Google, um, these days they're not requiring college educations. They're looking more at, like you said, drive. College is a good thing. I mean, it's worked out well for me. It's provided me a lot of opportunity. Um, but there's a lot to be said of education on the job, um, and learning in industry. Uh, I think there's a lot of things that school can't teach you about the real world, right? So I think there's opportunity for everybody, whether it's just right from high school into an industry and learning as you go, or going to trade schools, or the traditional go to college.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. Like sometimes, yeah, sometimes like it doesn't matter what like how many degrees you have or like how like qualified you are for the job. Like you're still as fresh as like the person who like might not have gone to college and then just kind of applied, you know. So yeah, on the job skills are probably like the most important thing behind like kind of any degree that you get or anything. Although degrees definitely do help, and I mean at least in today's world where like most jobs require a degree. Um, yeah, um, so how has your job field, like civil engineering, how has that sort of changed since when you started?
That's a great question, and it has really changed, right? I had talked about when I started out in this industry, I worked on a drafting board. It was a pen, a pencil, and paper, and rulers and straight edges. Now it's actually evolved to where it's computer aided design. Everything is done somewhat like virtually, um, and those advances continue. Um, so it's really changed, um, in the sense of, uh, drawing plans on a physical piece of paper to a computer environment. Uh, the use of drones is really starting to evolve. Uh, for surveying, or let's say we have to do bridge inspections. Back in the day, you would actually take a piece of equipment and actually be lowered underneath the bridge so you can actually see the condition of the bridge. Well, now they send in drones and they can take pictures and things of that nature. Um, and Again, I talked about this virtual design elements to where you can put on virtual reality goggles and actually see what something could look like before you even build it. So it's really evolved.
And speaking of technology, um, have you needed like additional training to be effective in like your job and with this like technology and stuff?
Yeah, actually, because I'm a registered engineer, I'm required to have continuing education credits, or they call them professional development hours. But it's just a best management practice, obviously, to stay current in the industry. Because, like you said earlier, technology it's ever evolving, and it can change quickly. So to stay current, yeah, I attend a lot of seminars and trade shows that demonstrate the new technology and equipment and building materials. Um, and one of the big big pushes recently is sustainability, right? Everything kind of green, remove your carbon footprint. Um, so that's another item that's been focused on.
Yeah, so sustainability and stuff, that's like I think that's affecting like so many engineering jobs because I at the college I want to go to, they're like making new organizations for like promotion of like green materials and stuff to like different countries. And yeah, it's just become like a kind of like a even like a political tool, you know? Like people were just saying, "Oh, we don't want to burn coal because that's like a issue with the environment and stuff." So now it's like, okay, well, what resource do we choose? And then goes back to problem solving. Probably goes back to civil engineering too, majority of the part, because like having to choose like what kind of things, like what kind of energy you want to produce. So, and that actually kind of makes me think of like a question. Like, do you think um I'm not really sure how Rochester Hills gets our energy, but if do you think that we'll ever need to like switch to a different or like better form of energy in the future, such as like wind or like or something like that? Or
That's a great question, and I think we've already made attempts. Um, a lot of our city buildings, we've retrofitted the lighting with all LED lighting, which is obviously more energy efficient. Um, the rooms have motion sensors, so when you come in, the lights turn on, but if there's no activity, the lights turn off. Um, I think there's just some of those best management practices to conserve energy. We have explored some solar options, rooftop to kind of take buildings off the grid. I think due to uh, per, perception, having the big wind turbines probably wouldn't work in a urbanized area like ours. Um, but there is again kind of technology that talks about like mini turbines. Um, you know, in the water industry, they've talked about putting mini turbines in like water mains. You have water pressure that's flowing through the pipes. Could we capture some of that energy um, and utilize it that way? One of the other beta tests that were, I think, in the St. Clair River from Detroit Edison is they actually put a turbine in the lake where there's a current, and they're taking energy from that current.
that's really cool. Yeah, 'cause, I even watched like a YouTube video about some dude in Oregon who was using the rain from his rooftop and like funneling it into um like a turbine, which generated him like a little bit of electricity. So I think that if we were ever to like make a bigger push for like more solar stuff, oh my phone is going off. Um, we could definitely do something like that. I mean, we probably have like the resources and stuff. Definitely not like the big wind turbines like you were saying, but if we ever changed energy, I think it might be a good idea to like go solar or something like that, or maybe even take the energy and stuff from the Paint Creek River, maybe for example. So that's just really cool, and I know you guys probably have like solutions and stuff to like work around those kinds of like problems and like energy solutions. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, one of the things I want to go back just for a second, Robert, is you talked about rainwater. Um, a lot of things that property owners can do is have rain barrels, connect them right to your gutters. It reduces the use of city water, and you can use those rain barrels to capture water for planting and watering the lawn. So that's a great observation.
Like recycling and stuff, and like promoting sustainability. That's it's all cool stuff. Um, so another kind of question is, what are your work hours and days like? How often do you like spend like out of a normal day like with this job that you have?
Well, the normal would be kind of 7 to 5. Um, but again, I kind of say, the city never sleeps, right? And the services that we provide, we don't turn the water off at 5 o'clock, and we don't shut the roads down at 5 o'clock. And so we are on the ready uh, if anything happens after hours, on the weekends, on holidays. Um, there was, what was it, this Christmas or last Christmas, it snowed. A lot of people like it because, hey, we're going to have a white Christmas. But to us, that means we need to go to work. We got to clear the roads. We got to make sure that they're safe to travel on. So normal would be 7 to 5, um, but depending on the weather and or responding to an emergency, the hours can differ.
Cool. So like going back to like what you were saying about being prepared for anything. So I know like as students it's like we just had like a big snow like I think a couple weeks ago. Then like all the cars like in the morning kind of like slipping around, because it was like snowy. But that meant like you guys probably had to like get up early and stuff, right? And then go clear the roads at like sometime like 5 a.m. or something. Um, so yeah, that's pretty cool. I think, in my opinion, I kind of would like just from my future career like options. I kind of want a job like that where it's like, yeah, there's a normal work schedule, but like having the just like being prepared, kind of like on your toes for something that could happen. That's a good idea. And probably like keeps your mind fresh. You don't get like bored of the same 7 to 5 schedule every day or something. So yeah.
And as you said, it keeps you fresh. That's for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So, what is your work environment like?
Well, some days it's an office environment, right? Working on budgets, working on personnel issues, uh, preparing plans and specifications, maybe a little bit of research and development. And other days it's out in the field, actually visiting construction sites. As you had referred to, problem solving. I need to do a field visit to garner some information about this issue that we're trying to resolve. So uh, there's a lot of variety in what the work environment could be. We could be 30 feet down in a water meter pit, uh, checking and making sure that the equipment is uh, is all right and operational. Um, and some days it might be 0 degrees outside, and you're standing out with a crew that's doing a water main repair. Just kind of general support for the team. So a lot of variety.
That's pretty cool. Um, yeah, like I guess as I was talking about before, in my opinion, like I enjoy a job with like lots of variety. Standing outside in 0 degrees might not be might not be something that I would enjoy, but if it was part of my job, then that would be something I would probably do. But speaking of changing in work environment, how has the COVID pandemic affected your job?
Well, it's changed it, right? I mean, just like you and I today. I mean, whoever heard of Zoom, you know, a year ago. Uh, so, uh, office wise, it's been different. Obviously, a lot of virtual meetings, a lot of things done electronically, not in person. But our operations group, we're considered essential, um, and we need to be at work. Like you alluded to, last Tuesday there was a big snow event. We don't have the option of not coming to work and clearing the snow. So a lot of precautions in the personal protection equipment, PPE, a lot of hand sanitizer, uh, disinfecting vehicles, making sure that they're clean, um, and a lot of coaching on social distancing, and protocols and contingency plans to make sure if someone does get sick, what are we going to do? The contact tracing. Um, so it's kind of changed our work environment quite a bit. But I'm pleased to say that no one's gotten sick, and that's due to people adhering to those best management practices.
Yeah, in my opinion, that's a really good like idea. It's just like common decency, like because sometimes when I see people like going into like Walmart or something not wearing a mask, I'm like, come on, dude, all you need to do is just wear a mask and just even if you think it's like fake or something, just gotta like help people out, just kind of like follow the rules. So yeah, um, that's a really good thing that your facility is like all safe and stuff because we probably need you guys, even though like I guess you guys are kind of like the I forgot the term, but it's like behind the scenes kind of people, like just making it like the 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 cogs to kind of just make the whole machine function, right?
Right.
So
You're absolutely right. I say it, and it's kind of half jokingly, we're not sexy, but we're essential. I mean, if you think about it, how many times has your water service stopped working? Probably almost never. But, your electrical service could, the power goes out or your cable service goes out. So yeah, we're very much kind of behind the scenes. And I have a couple sayings that, our greatest compliment is the complaint that we don't get. And when we don't get complaints, that means we're doing our job. We're quietly being efficient, effective, and providing those essential services.
yeah, that's cool. Uh, yeah, cause I know as COVID's been like affecting everyone, and it's probably changing moods. I mean, my experience, for example, like our school schedule has been like changing a lot, and with like the poor teachers having to like manage all their like new schedules and stuff, and then people were like, oh yeah, should we go back to school? Should we not go back to school? And then people just get stressed out and worried. So having like a water main or pipes like freezing or something is probably like another issue to add onto their plate. So it's really cool that you guys kind of go behind the scenes. Honestly, like I think there should be a day like at school or something, just kind of like where like a civil engineer like recognition day or something. Because I think a lot of people like kind of forget about how important your job is. Like if you guys weren't there, like people probably wouldn't have access to water and stuff or stuff like that. So I just think that'd be a good idea.
Ironically, Robert, this week is actually deemed Engineers Week. So if you Google National Society of Professional Engineers, you'll see uh, some some information on how National Engineers Week started.
Cool. Uh, yeah. So kind of going back to uh, things changing. Do you guys think that you guys would get the vaccine and stuff like before teachers or anything? Because I know there's like lots of priorities for whoever gets the vaccine first and stuff. So do you guys think you'll get it before anyone or after anyone? So like, where do you guys think you fall in the vaccine schedule?
Well, we can sign up, I think, on Oakland County Health Department's site. Uh, we are what is designated as an essential worker, um, but that whole vaccine rollout's been kind of dynamic, right? It changes and evolves and can obviously be dependent on the amount of vaccine available. So some of the people I do work with have been vaccinated. Some haven't. Uh, so we're just we're being patient and again being safe.
Yeah, that's cool. It's it's great that like you guys are able to work around such an event like this. As I know many people like my dad, for example, are like losing their jobs because companies don't have enough money to, like kind of keep themselves afloat, So that's cool. So do you think that you will always have like a stable job? Like you won't like you're the depending on like you won't really get like laid off or anything based on any like environmental things, or what are your thoughts on your job?
Well, working in the governmental sector, if you will, it is stable. Um, and again, industry specific, working in civil engineering, um, you're always going to have water, sewer, roads, um, those components uh, that make a vibrant community. Um, if you don't have good water systems or good sewer systems or roads, um, you know, economically, those locations don't thrive. So, but to answer your question, yes, I feel that um, the industry that I work in is stable.
So just kind of another engineering aspect question. So do you think that like as a civil engineer, your job like incorporates other parts from like different engineering fields, like such as mechanical or other like other different like engineering fields in your job? Do you think that incorporates it?
Absolutely. From the fleet side, right? I mean, we have vehicles and we have to repair those vehicles, and they have a lot of mechanical parts associated with them. Water meters, again, a mechanical type of device, and electrical industry has a lot to do with what we do. It could be anything from street lighting to certain technology that we have that monitors uh, our water and sewer assets. Um, Communications, being able to, uh, um, for example, we have 4 water feeds that come into the city, and we need to monitor how much water and what pressure it's coming into the city. And so there is communication devices that communicate that to us via a radio network. So yeah, we partner and work collectively with other industries.
That's cool. It sounds pretty complex. So I've actually never really wondered this, but since you just mentioned like the four water pipes and stuff, so where exactly do we get our like water from? Is it like treated and stuff?
So our water supplier is called the Great Lakes Water Authority, and a majority of our water comes from Port Huron, uh, and the water is taken out of the lake. It's processed, it's cleaned, and then it's transported to the city of Rochester Hills.
Just another question kind of going off that. So this transport to city of Rochester Hills is like Port Huron is like kind of like an hour away. Are you guys responsible for like all that piping, or are you guys just responsible for the greater like metro area of like Rochester piping?
So we're responsible for the piping network in the city of Rochester Hills. We have about 440 miles of water main uh, in our distribution system that we take care of. About 350 miles of sanitary sewers, and some additional storm water piping network also. As I stated earlier, about 1,000 miles of piping.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Um, so you mentioned like four pipes. I mean, just going back to like piping and like water and stuff. So, are there any other sources that we get water from? Because I mean, I've always just kind of wondered that Port Huron is like big place. So I was just wondering if we get it from like anywhere else.
There is also, with this Great Lakes Water Authority, they have multiple water plants in the metro region, and there is a supply that comes from Detroit. So there is what we call redundancy in the system. To your point, if there is an issue with a certain feed, uh, we have the ability to open and close certain valves that will allow water to flow through our system.
Just another quick question. This is kind of like on a different topic. So, do you think that um, in this civil engineering like job and kind of like how you rose, do you think your salary is going to like change or just like kind of stay the same?
You know, I think it's pretty consistent. Um, like you indicated, you know, we're kind of behind the scenes, but again, we're essential. Um, and I think different sectors of civil engineering, um, uh, their compensation is different. You know, if you're in a water and sewer sector versus transportation versus geotechnical. Um, but there is you know, a public side, which is the government side, but there's also private industry that, you know, does civil engineering. So, but to answer your question, it's pretty stable.
Cool. So, um, another question about like salary, because what you're saying kind of just moving on to another question, like, do you think that I mean, do you think that it changes based on like environmental factors or like government or public, or do they all essentially get paid about like the same?
There's been many like salary studies. Um, Oh, probably 20 years ago, the private sector was paid, their compensation was greater than the public sector. Um, but again, it really spoke to the stability of, working for government. Uh, um, you're not going to get rich, but it's stable. The private side can fluctuate. You're absolutely right with the economy. If you were in an engineering firm that worked on a lot of like private, like subdivision development, and the economy just tanked, a lot of those developments stop. And unfortunately, then it's like the people that work in the private sector, that work goes away till the economy gets better. Um, in the public side, where I work, we're into being somewhat of a service provider, right? I mean, we provide water, we provide sewer, we provide a road network for transportation. Um, so we're not really on the development side, if you will.
Yeah, because I know like kind of I learned this in like economics like yesterday about like the business cycle and like in housing kind of housing is like a big indicator of like the business cycle. So like when that goes under, there's like lots of things that are affected. And I was kind of wondering like, do these people in those private businesses do they ever move to public, and then and when their business when their like the housing market goes back up, do they go back to private, or do they do something
There
different?
is fluctuation of job opportunities. You're absolutely right. I've worked with people that have come from the private sector and they've stayed in the government sector. And I've seen people from the government sector go to the private sector. Um, it's kind of based on desire, right? And opportunity. Uh, Government oftentimes is unionized to where um, you if there was going to be a vacancy, you almost have to wait till someone retires or transitions out. Private sector, sometimes they're a little more fluid in opportunities.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like going back to like stability and stuff. So kind of what you're saying is that it's easier to do you think it's easier to get a job privately, because you said like or publicly, because you just said like you had to people have to wait. So do you think it's easier to get a job in the private or like public sector for like, civil engineering?
I don't know that I'd classify it as being one's easier than the next, um, because you're trying to look for certain qualities and abilities. Um, so, uh, if you have a certain skill set that the employer is looking for and you're a good fit, um, you would get the job. Um, so I don't know that it's easier in one or the other. I think it's just being a good fit, having the skill set needed.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. So I guess like kind of going off of what you said, and then what you said like before, kind of like it's not really about like how much you go to like school. It's just kind of like what your characteristics are and like their capability and stuff. So um yeah, and then another question. This might be my last one, but I've always been fascinated with the way things work. Another thing that kind of like inspired me to be an engineer. And I know that since you're a civil engineer, you might know about this, but I've always kind of wondered how like the meters and like the water meters work, because I always hear them making noise and like ticking. I'm not really sure like how that happens. So do you like know anything about that, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, So the older technology, if you will, the meter operates by what they call positive displacement. So it actually, um, the recording device is recording based upon water coming through and hitting a mechanical device. So it's what they call a positive displacement meter. The newer technologies are like ultrasonic. There are no moving parts in the meter anymore. As water passes through a channel, the droplets of water are digitally recorded, and that's where the industry is going. So the older meters are just water pushing a dial and it's recording. The newer technology, and I'll send you some information on it, is all ultrasonic.
I think that's about it on my end. I really appreciate you for taking the time out of your busy day to come do this with us. And so, do you have any other questions for me before close out or?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to kind of brag a little bit about what we get to do and how we do it and why we do it. And I really feel that civil engineering is a cool job, a cool industry with the abilities to go anywhere in the world. So we're always going to be needed, uh, which is good. And again, really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today, Robert.
Yeah, man, same to you. But yeah, so I kind of like I always remember civil engineering being like, oh yeah, just hills and like the land and where buildings go on the land. It's like, oh yeah, that seems kind of boring. But after today, like talking with you, it changed my perspective. Like really changed my perspective a lot on civil engineering. So yeah, in my opinion, it's a really cool job. So I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. So thank you so much.
All right, Robert, if you need anything else, you got my contact information.
Mhm.
And thanks again and have a great day.
All right, thank you. You too.